I would think, yeah, we're never.
Where else it is?
Okay, we're going to call to order. I'd like to thank you for coming tonight, and we're going to start with the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a moment of silence, please, for first responders and our military who fell in Afghanistan about a couple weeks ago. Thank you.
Is that a train coming through?
Something's taking, I don't know. There's probably, I'm sure there's a bomb under my chair. Okay, we're going to start off with our budget session. It's going to be an overview of the budget, and then we'll get more and more in depth as the meetings go by. So I'll turn it over to Andrew for the budget presentation.
Okay, just kind of as we discussed in the past, the first meeting tonight is just to get an idea on what we're looking at when we look at the 2022 budget. So what I did is just put together tonight a quick packet of a summary of things that you're going to see as we move forward in the budget process. So really I just want to take time tonight to discuss things, get an idea if there's any requests from council on changes. I can tell you that there will be a lot of changes overall with regards to making sure that all of the accounts are kind of restructured, realigned to match DCD's chart of accounts and clean things up a little bit, as well as lock down the numbers a little bit more and provide you a little bit of history on where the numbers came from. So just to start, I wanted to go over kind of the budget calendar, what we'll be looking at. Obviously tonight, preliminary discussions in October. Next meeting will be October 18th. I'd like to have the budget in your hands before that, so you have some time to review, obviously, before that evening. And then we can review that in its entirety and amend during that time. So then on November 8th, we can continue that discussion if needed. My understanding in the past is that you broke the different funds up throughout the meetings, and we can continue to do that. You just have to let me know. At that time, we would need tentative approval of the budget and then authorization by council to advertise the budget for inspection, as well as a tax ordinance if there's an increase. Just as a reminder, if it's decreasing or staying the same, you can do that by resolution now, not by ordinance. That would mean that we would be set up for December 13th council meeting to approve the budget, tax ordinance, or resolution. And December 3rd, backing up, would start the required 10-day inspection, public inspection. Questions on that so far?
I think we probably should plan on going ahead and breaking the budget into accounts and going through it so that we have a good idea of what's going into
Okay.
each.
Is that you would like to split?
Starting November 8th.
October.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
October 18th.
and splitting revenues all in one meeting, expenditures in another, or matching the funds?
Probably better to match the funds. I mean, I track easier that way myself. Does anyone have a preference?
Makes sense.
Yeah, because then you know what goes ins and goes outs on. So.
All right, well, you'll get an entire packet, and we'll just have to, I'll have tabs in the packet so we can move around between there pretty easily. Okay. Other questions on that? The next next couple pages really just break down each fund and what we'll be looking at, changes and projects in those funds. So most of these things are what we discussed already. We discussed, especially in the general fund, realigning all the accounts with DCD. What you'll see when you're looking at the budget worksheets is you'll see, and there's an example with it on the third page here, you will see the 2021 budget year-to-date through August 31st, what we estimate between August 31st and December 31st, obviously giving us the total for the year. And then the last column in yellow will be what our proposed 2022 budget is presented and then as amended. And then the hope is in upcoming years that we'll be able to build that column to the left of 2021 budget and actually have 2021 actual, 2022 budget, and then the same columns to the right. So that'll give us a little bit of historic data moving forward.
I think you mentioned it once before in a previous meeting, but everything now is in QuickBooks, so we can pull data, see where we were last
Right,
year.
yeah, we're running payroll completely through QuickBooks, and we're slowly transitioning everything else. But as of January 1st, everything will be completely on QuickBooks. So now that will definitely help giving us historic data moving forward. It just takes time to build those things. So, one of the other things that I'd like to do, looking at the budget, is to extract all the accounts that really relate to refuse. So the refuse charges that are collected, the refuse fees that are paid to Penn Waste at this point, pull those out in any corresponding accounts and actually create a new refuse fund. And I think that'll clean things up so it's not intermingled with the general fund, and then we can clearly see to make sure that the fees that are being charged are covering the cost of the contract. It won't be a very lengthy, obviously it'll be a couple lines in that fund, so it'll be pretty easy to track. But I think that'll help clean up the general fund and break that piece out. Based on the projects, we will be pulling down the rest of that 2021 general obligation note proceeds. So if you remember right, when we go back to when that was closed, those funds are just sitting there at this point. We're not paying any debt service on those funds until we actually pull them and need them. So they're sitting there. We will need them based on the street projects, based on the public works, building renovation project as they move forward. Talked about public works, building renovation. We talked about in previous meetings about the stormwater collection system, a lot of repairs. Obviously, the majority of those were going to be funded using the American Rescue Plan Act funds, as council previously approved. Numerous roadway projects along with using funds from Highway 8, liquid fuels. And Public Works has also requested the purchase of a bucket truck. They would get rid of their lift and purchase a bucket truck too.
How often do they use that? I mean, is that
The lift,
expense
from conversations that I had, and I think that's, we'll plug it in and then we'll, as if we need to tweak things, we'll look at it then. But conversations with Donnie, it's more that the lift now is difficult for them to get into areas and to do things like tree trimming and other things, where the bucket truck will provide a little bit more stability and functionality moving forward.
So we had been borrowing one from, I think, Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
Because basically, at one point, all we needed them for was to put up the Christmas lights and maybe one or two other things I didn't know. I guess my question really is the expense versus just borrowing the one from Shrewsbury and then switching out our street sweeper for that. We're beyond the point where it's just a
Yeah,
large
and that's
emergency.
kind of like I said, the conversations with Donnie, and what I can do then is we'll kind of put together another document talking about that, different uses and projected, hours of use throughout the year, so that we can grasp, like you're saying, if we can trade street sweeper, that's great, but my understanding it's a little kind of past that at this point.
Okay. I was
And
just
then we get rid
wondering.
of the lift that they
Yeah,
have now.
because on the intergovernmental committee, Erica and I had talked to Shrewsbury and Glen Rock about trying to utilize some of those things to keep us all from, having to purchase equipment if somebody else has.
Right, yeah, and we'll talk about another purchase when we get to the water
Okay.
fund about.
All right, thanks.
Yep. Like what was mentioned, the refuse fund, actually creating that new fund and pulling those accounts that relate to the contract and user fees out moving forward. Water fund, most likely there will be an adjustment to user fees. There was a number in the 2021 budget for user fees, and it doesn't look like that number will be obtained. We're still doing some calculations to figure out where that number came from, but it is going to make a budget shortfall in 2021. So obviously, we need to make sure that we're maintaining enough revenues to meet current expenditures as well as debt service. Just as a general fund, we will be pulling all of the remaining proceeds from the 2021 general obligation note, and that is to satisfy the current project, I guess you can call it current, the Franklin and Constitution Avenue water project that we still have not received a second payment application for. So at this point, not sure how long into the fall and winter that will drag out, but we'll need to pull those down at the time that we do receive a request for payment, as well as a slider tank replacement.
What's the, what the balance is on those street water line projects?
About 1.2 million. Yeah. And that includes all retainage.
Yeah, just odd.
I don't get it. I've never had a contractor
No.
that goes almost a year with only one
Yeah.
request for payment.
Yeah, they probably have a shortage of people in their accounting department. I mean, that's probably what's happening, because that seems to be the answer to everything right now.
I guess. I know that the engineers followed up with them a couple times to ask for a request for payment, because we need that to be able to get quantities so that we can send the bill to Columbia Gas to get reimbursed for the overlay. So things are kind of snowballing and delay here, but the money's sitting in our account at this point, and we have the product, so I don't. Yeah, I guess. Again, as we previously discussed, the water line on South 3rd Street, that was a high priority, looking at the American Rescue Plan Act funds that council approved, so that'll be in the budget. You just have to remember that when we're looking at this, your revenues is not going to match your expenditure as we're looking at 2022. Those funds came in 2021. You're going to be expending them in 2022. So when you're looking at it, those kind of things can cause a surplus one year, deficit the next year, so they might not match completely. One of the items that was requested by Public Works was the purchase of a valve exerciser and vacuum machine, and that actually would be in cooperation with Shrewsbury and Stewartstown boroughs. So it's a piece of equipment that the three of us believe that they can utilize and then schedule accordingly so that everybody gets to use it throughout the year.
Let me ask, what exactly is a valve exerciser?
Water valve exerciser, so basically machine.
Yeah, it's motorized, and they send the Yeah, key down, except it's motorized, they can open and close it, because if you're.
So just to make sure it kind of stays open and
Yeah.
doesn't get corroded or rusted.
Yeah, just to make sure they're workable when you use them, because if you're out there having to do this by hand, it gets pretty old pretty quick.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was water.
Yeah, and then the vacuum machine actually allows them to go and replace curb boxes. They can vacuum down and get the curb box set.
Excellent. It takes the dirt out.
Yep.
Okay.
Any idea how much they cost? I'm not, I know what they are, but.
Yeah, I think the rough estimate is around 40,000, but again, that would be split 3 ways.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Moving into sewer fund, again, like we mentioned, realigning all the accounts. I think I've looked at previous budgets and, there probably will be a small increase. $1 or $2, I know what was done in the past to try to keep things up with expenditures. I think you'll see your larger increase in the water fund, possibly slightly smaller increase in the sewer fund. Along with that, again, there's about $3 million left from the general obligation note. That money's sitting in there, no debt service is being paid on it at this point. We'll probably pull about $500,000 of that to begin the plant upgrade process, and that's the study to go through and the engineering and everything that was previously allocated.
And just to be clear, that's not really a study for increased capacity, it's really just a study to bring us up to our current capacity.
Correct. Yes. Recreation and community center funds, I kind of lump those together. I really don't anticipate much change there except for trying to get a handle on participation and programming and where those things are going to lie with COVID restrictions in place. Again, same thing for highway aid fund, mentioning that we'll partner money from highway aid fund and general fund for roadway improvement projects. And then, as I mentioned earlier, that's kind of a preview of the budget worksheet. I just pulled out the first section, which is real estate taxes from the revenues, to kind of show you what it'll look like moving forward. Questions so far? Before there is one request that I did receive from Rose Fire Company, Nuclear Ambulance, but I wanted to discuss if there's other requests as we're looking at the budget and things that you'd like to see or changes to be implemented.
Money for Rose Fire. I know last year because of COVID, we kind of kicked out an EMS tax. Would we want to consider, instead of that $10,000, doing that as an EMS tax?
My personal opinion, we almost have to get into Ann's. Ann's gone through a great deal of effort to put together what we actually need from Rose Ambulance to come up with that. We're really, in my opinion anyway, and I think in Ann's as well, we're not really any closer to having
Hard numbers from Rose today as we were from the last budget when we were starting to talk about chase trucks and all that kind of stuff. Everyone on council, I'm sure, can express their opinion. It's my opinion that if we donate $10,000, they've asked, the letter that we received from them, they're asking for $10,000 for training. It's my opinion that if we give them $10,000 for training, if they don't need training next year, they don't get another $10,000. If you institute an EMS tax, you're basically saying, we're going to give you $10,000 every year in perpetuity or more. Because you're not,
Unless you decide you're not going to do it the next year. I mean, you could
Yeah.
drop it out of the budget for 2022.
Well, tax is more stable, locked in than a donation. So it's my opinion that we should do a donation for this year and ask them, and actually I was going to ask you if you could take back Ann's notes back to, and which I think she passed out.
Is that what this
Yeah, that's what
is?
that is, yeah.
That, the one that I gave everyone was what Rose actually gave us for 2020. I also created a budget, a proposed budget for 2022. They've told us between 700 and 800,000 is what they need to manage Rose Fire Company. And what I did is, there's a lot of information I don't have, and they haven't been totally transparent yet. Now, I know that they're not there at the end of their budget, and so they can't give exact numbers. They try to give some numbers in percentages from 20 and 21, and that makes it very difficult because you don't really have a true numerator and denominator. You don't know what percent, what it means. So there's a number of questions that I had, and that's, I'm not handing this out to everybody, but if you would, Mr. Mayor, this is the 2022 budget. And if there's a way that we can find out the percentages of calls each of the communities are, you know, working with, fostering or how their time
We
is
should
spent.
be, yeah, we should be able to get
Yes,
that.
yes, we
you
should.
know.
We
Yes.
should.
You know, their new
We've gone
call
through-
system,
Yeah, we've gone through many meetings now, probably
Yes, the
to
most
the
recent one
tune of
was September
six
2nd.
different meetings, and we don't have, what I would like to do is come up with what their budget is, take out the things that we don't have to pay, like contributions, membership, reimbursements, and then there leaves a number left over that we and the other municipalities should come up with and have to pay. That's really what we're trying to head for. I think we're clearer on the numbers that we need, because that's what that sheet is, but I don't think we have the actual numbers yet. So as soon as we can get
and do that
those.
based on the percentage of calls for each
Well,
municipality.
they can send me any kind of numbers they want, and I'll machinate them whatever way I can. But right now, I don't have, I got something, you know, Glen Rock gave raw numbers and percentages, but what Rose did was give just percentages, and I didn't know percentages of what. And if you look at the 2020 budget, which is what they established and gave to us, you'll see that insurance and private pay is greater than 50% of their budget. Membership alone is 100,000. So when you come right down to it, even though we're only maybe giving, you know, 23,000 if we do this coming year, in respect of what percent of calls we actually have for people in New Freedom Borough.
Right, because I think the majority of calls the last 2 weeks were not in New Freedom.
That is correct, sir.
They were either Maryland, Shrewsbury Township, Cadorus,
Right.
you know, I
So
keep.
then, we want to be fair.
That's
As
right.
a
Absolutely.
council, I think we all want to be fair. It's just we want to know what the percent is and how does that equate to dollars.
Right,
And
and
we still have
everybody
enough
else,
time.
like Shrewsbury, doesn't have EMS. So they should really have to pitch in for what we, as a municipality, it's not a free ride to them to get free EMS service.
Right.
You know, and Glen Rock is gonna be coming in with a real problem because they've got Ed and John, who are gonna be retiring shortly. It's gonna leave them.
Well, their budget is $800,000 for just roads.
Yeah,
But if they merge, their budget is going to be about 1.25 to 1.3 million.
Yeah.
So
They said
that's
anywhere
another
from 1
thing.
million to 1.25.
1.25, yeah, I think I was
I'm
at
always
that
an
meeting.
optimist. I hope it's
Yeah.
1 million, not 1.25.
Well-
But still, it impacts the way we look at our budget now. How much money do we put in? I don't agree, and it is my opinion, I don't agree with an EMS tax, because really, then we're really not in control. The tax is never gonna go down, and whatever you're feeding in just kind of depends on a number of variables. We have
Right.
more people in this community now, and you'll get more and more from our EMS tax, but is that fair? I don't think anybody else has an EMS attached, all the other boroughs.
Well,
I
no,
think Shrewsbury-
Shrewsbury makes a donation.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
think-
based on their
Yeah.
population.
I think, I hate to use the letters, but I think what we need is an IGA type instrument, like a memo of understanding where Shrewsbury Township, New Freedom,
Yep.
Shrewsbury Borough, Glen Rock are all gonna get together, Hopewell, figure out what these numbers should be. And I really
Or
think,
Springfield.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that doesn't count for Maryland.
Yeah, Maryland, you can forget, you're not gonna get anything there, but they.
you do get the reimbursement.
They
so-
get the reimbursement,
Right.
where up here, when you're looking Medicare, Medicaid, it's different. It's
Yeah.
big difference. Plus, I think we should emphasize to them that they've got $700,000 in accounts receivable.
Right.
Somebody really needs to grab a hold of that. That's a lot of money.
Well, Todd from Shrewsbury Township, his
And then he
statement,
volunteered.
his statement was, and I think it's very accurate, you have $700,000 on the books. Anything that's older than 3 years, 4 years, pick a number, it really has to go away.
Just regular.
So you really probably don't have 700,000, you probably have 400,000.
Yeah, because I think Glen Rock was what, 300,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, three.
So-
But I think we need to ask them to really, is anything being done with that, with collections? I know
Todd has
Talked
begged,
about
pretty
it.
much.
What?
I mean, he has begged for, for them to get a handle on the collections end of it. I mean, he's really trying to.
because I know he said, he kind of volunteered that he would help.
Yeah, well, yeah, he even went so far as to say he would help. So I think that is part of that puzzle. That's part of the, there's money coming in from past receivables that need to be factored in. So it's a lot of numbers, and I think if we could get to that, I would even not be opposed to saying, let's set aside some amount of money. Like, let's say our portion comes out to be, well, I don't want to put out a number, but if it comes out to be X, then we're gonna give them basically the 13.5 we gave them last year and 10 for training. Let's say we decide to do that. So that's 23.5. And let's say we think we should be paying them 40. Take the 23.5, subtract it from the 40, put that balance in an account labeled for them. And when we get this information, that money can be released. But I do not want to release any additional monies until we know what our percent is supposed to be.
Understood.
That's where I'm coming from.
Agreed.
Does anyone else disagree, or? I mean, because I think we just need to know, I mean, we owe it to the citizens for them to know what money is going out to pay for them. Okay. I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No, thank you for putting these figures together. They're very important.
I'm sorry.
I apologize. If there's nothing else, and this would be reason to meeting unless anybody has any questions, concerns, requests.
The only question I had was about the DCED background, and I had asked before the meeting if we could have a copy either electronically or, physically. And if it's a big, long list, we don't need to have it, but it would be interesting to at least look at and see exactly how they're recommending we go about it.
It'll be, I can email the PDF out.
Andrew, excuse me, is Donnie going to go out with our engineer this year again, look at the streets and decide what's going to be in the budget for next year, what streets are going to get done?
Yeah, we have them already getting the bid package ready.
Oh,
And we've
okay.
already selected the streets. We're trying to get that ready so that it's actually, we'll bid it over the winter so that they're ready to go in the spring.
Right.
We're not waiting until now.
Everybody else is ready.
Yeah,
Is that the same list that you had given us a couple of months ago?
Yes.
Which street? Okay.
yes.
Okay, that's that part of the meeting then, if nobody has any questions. Okay, and we'll go to public comment and visitors. Is anyone? Not seeing any hands. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
A lot of you know me, and well, some of you do and some of you don't. I'm Myra from Gill Ice over the ice cream shop. But my husband and I were kind of throwing this thing around, and we thought about it and came up with an idea that we think would be beneficial to the neighborhood during the holidays. And everybody gets excited when Santa comes and lights the tree and that kind of thing. And the turnout is really great. And so we thought to put something else with it to make it more enjoyable. And I called Andrew and discussed it with him, and I'm talking to quite a number of people who are excited about it. And it's a parade to lead Santa into the tree. You know, and nothing that we do at the 4th of July. You know, I've talked with rec council as well. Just something smaller, from the community center down. And so far the response has been, you know, wow, you know, count us in, the Cub Scouts, we want to be in, and you know, some of the daycares, we can put our bus in and decorate it and lights and all this. So I just thought it'd be nice for the community if we did something like that.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
You're in
So,
charge. You're in charge.
yeah. We don't know what the weather is like.
Sure, yeah.
Unlike the heat.
All in favor?
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you let us know what support you need, or I guess you would need to close the street from the community center down to the tree?
Yeah, I've spoken with the police department who said and I've spoken with the fire department. Apparently there are two different entities. One
Right.
has the authority to close the street, one has to monitor, whatever. So I've spoken with them, and they're just like excited. You know, like, sure, just let us know what we need to do, kind of thing. So, and I think it'll be nice. I've kind of pushed ahead and looked at the weather, tried to look at the weather. Yeah. But it's kind of looking around 40-ish, but it isn't too bad. But unlike the summer
pretty
where,
far out.
where it's hot and people are out there roasting, they can at least put on a jacket, you know, or something out there.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to come tonight and kind of throw that out there and see what you guys thought. And, you know,
Yeah, please let us know what you need, and we,
Okay.
you know, yeah, I think we all love to support that. So.
That's great.
And that's still PennDOT, PennDOT Street, we need any kind of permit. If you use PennDOT.
Santa Claus comes down the street anyway. I don't think it would be.
He doesn't use the street though, you know.
Oh,
CFAA.
No, he flies up to the community center and then gets on the fire.
But seriously, before we get into jail with PennDOT, if it's something we need to learn about PennDOT, I don't know why they have a problem with it.
I'll check, make sure.
I doubt if
Maybe
it's
a bridge or something.
Yes.
no, I don't think, they're not gonna say no. I mean, it's a, yeah. Opinion. Even if we have to put up a detour sign or something. Yeah.
because
That'd be great.
he normally lights around
All right.
6, I think. So if we said 5, it'll give us enough time, an hour, get everybody down to the tree. And it'll still be getting dark, so you can see the lights and that kind of thing. So it'll be-
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to jump in, help, do whatever, just,
Who's the main sponsor of that,
Of what?
of the tree lighting?
Lions Club, isn't it?
Is
Yeah.
it
It's the Lions
Heritage or is it?
Yeah, it is.
Lions?
Yes, Lions.
It's Heritage in the Line.
Oh, no.
yeah, we
Yeah.
bring the band, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the people that are watching the parade following behind Santa Claus and come the whole way down.
That'd be fun.
Walk down.
Mhm.
That way you'll save on partners.
Trying to get a better spot.
That's all I have.
Okay. Yeah, please, yeah, let us know. Let us
Okay.
know.
Yeah, all right.
That's great. Appreciate it. Appreciate your effort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no other comments? Okay. Approval of minutes?
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was,
mine changed.
it was September, it was under the yard sale.
Rain date?
Yeah, it said September 16th, it should have been the 26th, that is reflected in what you have in front of you.
Yeah.
That was from the minutes for rec.
Oh, that's from rec.
Right.
Okay. All right, okay, I hadn't seen it.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
I second.
Motion. Second from Ingo. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? My vote is aye. Treasurer's report.
The report itself is gonna change.
Yes.
Because of the
First,
accountants.
yeah,
Yeah,
first
oh,
of
yeah,
the year.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're still doing some of those, so yeah, it'll look completely different. Basically, what you'll see is date, check number, vendor, memo, account number, amount, so.
Yeah, it'll be a lot easier to follow. I think, right?
It will,
I mean,
yes.
it'll be more like a checkbook than
The accounts themselves, will they reflect that this is the general account, this is the water account, this is the sewer account?
Yeah, I mean, they do now just by fund number, but it will specifically say general fund, sewer fund, and it will actually break those up. So you only see all general fund checks, and then in a separate, I guess, worksheet or separate section on the page will show all sewer fund checks, all highway fund checks. So
And they'll be designated as such?
Yes.
Because I think there's still probably a lot of people here that don't know account number 1, what it is, account number 6, and maybe up until
I have
that
to,
point.
I have to use a chart whenever I
Right,
go
I do
through,
too.
you
I
know.
have the same
Yeah.
thing, because
This is going to be,
we do it once a month.
I mean,
and
seriously,
look at
it's
it.
going to be like 100 times easier
Yeah.
to follow and track.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe even if we, until then, we have something as a preface that says account 001 is general fund, 008 is sewer fund.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
I think it kind
At
of
the
helps.
beginning?
Yeah, thank you. Because it gets, when you're running through it, I'm like you, I pull out my sheet, and I went, 6 is what? Okay, that would help, thank you.
Question about the Crystal Springs, assuming that's bottled water, what building is that used in? Here,
It's used at all the facilities.
all of them?
Yeah.
All right. Have we ever looked into one of the, it's like a standalone unit with a filter?
Or tap water?
It uses
Yeah.
tap water, but it just filters instead of having.
I honestly, it was something set up before.
I-
And
Yes,
I think
just
it's
always been that way.
Yeah, I think it was just something because of cold. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
I mean-
I don't think it's not anything to do with the filter and not using our own water. It's more, I think it was just cold water at the.
Yeah, I mean, these
And you
standalone
can grab a
units is-
bottle and take it with you.
Well, does that have cold and hot?
Yeah,
on
they
it?
do.
Yeah,
It
so
does.
you've got instant hot and instant cold.
Yeah. And you could fill, you'd have to use a reusable container, but that's probably better
I
for the
mean,
environment too.
so you're probably using one of those
Yeah.
phone cups anyway. or
Kinda like one of these.
One of them, but I'm saying,
We don't use
it's
that.
basically the same thing, we're just not buying somebody else's water to generate, essentially generate water.
Right.
No, I agree.
Just, well,
Yeah, if it puts us over, it's probably cheaper than York Water Company.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, if every month is the same, that's over $4,000.
Oh, no, that's,
So, okay,
yeah.
okay,
No, they don't come every month.
okay.
I'm thinking it's every other, if that.
Okay. All right, so, 2,000. Ish. Okay.
So we could look into that.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
refund for Burkentine, was that something, it says 134 Heritage, was that something?
Just a
we-
double payment.
Double payment, yeah. And Clearview, what was that for road?
They did a lot of different projects, so that was actually, that related to quite a few inlet repairs along Franklin Street ahead of the paving, separate from the water project that was completed.
Was that actually Franklin, Constitution, Pleasant, Second, and all those stormwaters too?
Yeah, it was just, they invoiced us all at once for all separate jobs, so it makes it
Okay.
look like one large check, but one of the largest ones was out there on Pleasant Avenue, and that was relaying that pipe across, so,
Oh, that was a big one.
yeah.
I make the motion that we approve the treasurer's report.
I have a motion and approve the treasurer's report.
I'll second.
Brunel seconds. Any other discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay, I wanted to read something. We had, as you know, we had a couple of concerts, and the rec department's putting on our third concert. It's going to be sponsored by Gemcraft Construction. But something really kind of neat came out of our first concert. I gotta not get verklempt here. I'm going to read this. It's, Dear Mr. Bobby and Joni, thank you for the concert in the park last weekend. It was a joyous occasion for my family and all who attended, a fantastic reminder of the impact one family can have on the local community. In true American fashion, the evening ended with United Armed Forces medley. The medley always reminds me of my grandfather, Nick Verdun, who fought in the Korean War. The Army was everything to him, and he made sure our family appreciated the sacrifice our service members continue to make daily. In memory of him and all who have fought for freedom under the red, white, and blue, I hope the VFW Auxiliary Post 7012 will accept this donation in the amount of $10,000 for the new building. I was so touched, I just wanted to share that with you. It's not really borough business per se, but it came out of the efforts of Andy and Rick with the games, and Joni and Donnie, and it was just a huge, for someone to give that amount, so, anyway.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I just thought that was, and that's Kitchell Chiropractic in Shrewsbury, is Tim Kitchell. Okay. I only had one other thing. I wanted to talk a little bit about the New Freedom Borough Municipal Parking. And I guess this could actually be titled New Freedom Borough Municipal Parking as it relates to the Constitution of the United States of America. But I didn't do that. We had two people come to me and say that the police kicked them off the parking lot because they were sitting eating mott sticks and talking, and it was a couple minutes after 9. I went and spoke to the chief about it, and he said that he was told that Borough Council wanted to enforce keeping people off the parking lot after 9. I don't recall ever having a vote in Borough Council to keep people off the parking lot after 9 o'clock. This actually, the reason I kind of little tongue-in-cheek said, as it relates to the Constitution of the United States, is because the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on people loitering, and they ruled that loitering laws are illegal. We cannot tell people that you can't stand on the sidewalk and talk. I mean, Burnell and I had lunch the other day, and we talked for 20 minutes outside after. I guess we could have been arrested. So, I do not, and I don't think this council wants to tell our voting citizens that they cannot sit in the parking lot and talk. I mean, if NCR has I need a soapbox. If NCR has a night where they have a train ride and a dinner ride or something like that, and then you get back after 9 o'clock, are you not supposed to go get your car? You know, so I don't think we can close a municipal parking lot. And I understand this probably stemmed from closing the park at 9 o'clock, but the parking lot is not the park. So I just want to make sure that we all agree on that. I mean, if you don't, tell me. But I think we need to make sure that the police understand, and I think we need to send something to the police telling them that if Borough Council wants something enforced, that will come from the borough manager, and it'll be something documented. Because I don't want our citizens to start thinking that the police are chasing after them to get them out of the parking lot. I mean, that's just, it's an unnecessary confrontation. And
Did he say where this came from? I mean, I've talked to Chief about.
he said it came from you.
No, never.
I didn't want to bring it up.
wondering.
So go talk to him.
Never did those words come out of my mouth.
Okay.
Yes,
He's-
Orange Goodfellow Park.
Okay.
Absolutely, because we wanted to keep the kids off of
Well, you
the
need
park
to,
after night.
I'm not taking that up here. You need to go talk to Chief about that.
Oh, believe me, I will.
So, and it happened again just a couple of days ago where and they said that the canine officer came over and told them that they had to leave. So, and these are, I mean, they're 18-year-olds, but they're still voting people, and they're, you know, one thing that we all know, there ain't any place to go in New Freedom. I mean, they can't go to 7, they can't go to a bar, you know, and if they just want to sit and talk in their car, and like I said, the United States Supreme Court has ruled that all the way up. I mean, it happened in Chicago, it happened, and actually the state of Illinois found that it was illegal. Chicago appealed it, as of course Chicago would, to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court said, no, you cannot kick people up. It falls under the First Amendment, the right to assemble, the right to free speech. They were actually sitting there talking about the Constitution, I understand. That was a joke.
Now, that doesn't mean that we can't close the park at 9 o'clock.
Oh, no, yeah, the park closes at
Which
9.
we have an ordinance. Okay.
Right.
Now, when you say the parking lot, you're talking about the big municipal lot.
Right, exactly
Down
so.
on Second and High.
Yeah,
I have no idea, I think.
Okay.
it's-
Front
Or Front and High. I'm
Front and
sorry.
High, yes.
Yeah,
I-
Front and High.
Okay.
I hope that when we say something to the chief, he doesn't think that he doesn't have to patrol that from time to time later in the night.
Oh, yeah, I mean, obviously, if someone is selling drugs, or, I mean, and the Supreme Court found, if you were soliciting prostitution, selling drugs, you're, you know, having a gang fight, or, you know, there's a whole list of things. But, you know, obviously, if there's a crime being committed, we don't want crimes being committed. So do you want to send something to the chief, or do you want me to draft something?
Do you want me to hand deliver it?
Well,
Because we're gonna
We'll
have
let-
a conversation.
we'll let you go tomorrow, and Andy will follow up in a day or two. All right, well, I appreciate that, because I didn't think we wanted to do that, and it really kind of made me
No.
sad that we were pushing people off the parking lot.
I mean, we ask people during the winter to use that
Right.
in lieu of the snow emergency routes for them to park there or up at the
Well,
community
sure, and if
center.
somebody has to go in there at 11 o'clock to get their car because they have a 12 o'clock shift at the
Right, you've
hospital,
got nurses
you have to
and-
let them go into the parking lot. You can't
Yeah.
just close it.
Because Andrew and I have talked about that before. If you got a nurse that's going in, and lighting and,
Okay. All right, as long as we're all on the same page, I'm happy. Okay.
we are.
Mr. Mayor. I know there wasn't a police commission meeting, but
No, there wasn't, that's why Donna is not here. Police Commission meeting will be next week because of the major storm that we had. We felt that we were much better off having municipal officers and the police officers in their own safety of their own municipalities, where they may be needed for flooding and to help out with fire company. Police, we certainly needed them to be out, so we've put that off. You do have, again, I've asked, and I didn't realize that, Andrew, you get this every month. Andrew will put this together, Chief, or Darrell forwards that. This gives you a complete list of everything, And I've asked this year that you guys get that so you know what's going on. I think we need to discuss, with this new agenda thing, I don't know what falls under agenda and what falls under.
It's a report.
What I want to talk about.
it's your report.
Okay, well, my second report is publicly, I would like to apologize to Andrew. It was something between he and I. I got a little rambunctious because I was getting an awful lot of calls from citizens about our new zoning practices and our ordinance and infractions, both phone calls and emails. And I had asked that we discuss it in executive session because we can't really mention names out here. I apologize because you do a wonderful job of putting that together for council, and I forgot about that. So if I came off a little whatever, please forgive me. I apologize. It was just the phone calls and the emails were just getting.
Yeah, I realize they just, to take some pressure off of you too, they're always welcome to call in here and we can give them, where we're at with certain enforcement measures and things.
As
So
you
it
notice,
takes-
I've been following up with emailing you copies of exactly what I get, and if I respond, what my response is.
Right.
And generally it is, I will forward this to the borough manager for
Yeah.
further, so that I apologize for kind of getting a little heavy on that. I think we need to talk about Halloween. Everybody else has discussed their evening and time for Halloween. Shrewsbury is doing, well, they were doing Saturday, and then at their last council meeting, they changed it to Sunday because that is Halloween. Originally, they wanted to do it Saturday, kids had school Monday. I think we need to decide what we want to do. Can we do that with it not being on the agenda?
Yeah, I think Halloween is a religious exception.
A religious exception, then
What has, just for my knowledge, was there a point in time where it was always the 31st from 6 to 8?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Middle of the week, whatever.
yeah.
But I think the fact that it was Sunday threw a lot of people for a loop because, it's not really a religious holiday and it interferes, I know, but it can interfere. There are a lot of people that go to church Sunday evening, so I think they were thinking about those folks and their children and doing it Saturday, and they don't have to get up, try to get.
What is Shrewsbury Borough doing?
They are now doing Sunday from 6 to 8.
6 to 8, That's what I thought.
6 to 8.
I think it makes sense to do Sunday 6 to 8.
Do we need to make somebody need to make a motion or do we?
I think we just announced it.
I think we just announce it.
Okay, we'll make an announcement, mayor's making an announcement, Halloween will be Sunday, October 31st from 6 to 8 p.m.
And we'll put it on Facebook and
Can you get Savvy, get it on Savvy.
you ask Rec to put it on too.
I have another question. Have we received the surveillance signs from CIA?
We only got
Is that going
one.
louder?
Doctor,
We only received one so far. I have ordered more today from them, so we'll have those put up.
What's,
I don't know if they did say they put quite a few up. I don't know if they disappeared.
I never saw any.
Yeah, the only one right now is on the
Right.
website.
Okay, but we will be taking care of that?
Yes.
Okay, because that's, I think, important.
Yeah.
That we
Well,
can-
it's by law, it's,
Right.
yeah, PA state law requires it.
I would also ask, maybe not council, but that the agenda, at the end of the agenda, before we do executive session, could we move public comment to prior to executive session? That way, if we have an extended executive session, people don't have to sit around here to wait. I've noticed Glen Rock and Shrewsbury have moved theirs so that they'll make an announcement, you know, we're gonna have an executive session. After that, all we're gonna do is, okay. All right, I've been asked by Shrewsbury Fire Department and Glen Rock, apparently there's something that they, it's gonna require an ordinance, but what they do is each business and rental unit uses what's called a Knox box. You familiar
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah.
They apparently have talked to previous people about doing the Knox box ordinance in New Freedom. They really would like to see us go through with that. I have a copy of Shrewsbury's, if,
Yeah, you had one at the municipality I was out before.
Okay.
And when I started there, the municipality basically had to place the order for the Knox box from the company.
with
You don't-
theirs, they
You
make,
don't have to do that anymore.
yeah, they make the company supply it, put it in. I think they give them a year from the time the ordinance is enacted to do it. I think that's a little long, but what it does, if nobody knows what a Knox box is, they put a box on each major building and business so that, say a fire alarm, and you have to, well, fire alarm, if fire alarm goes off, the police and fire get there. If nobody's there to let them in, they're gonna bust the door down. Well, with the Knox box, they have a master key. That master key will open every Knox box in southern York County. The fire department would have one, they could open that, get the key to the front door, go in, investigate, and there's no damage. So that they've asked for, so.
County control is the only one that can unlock that box from the truck.
I'm sorry?
The fire department has to call county control to get the box on the fire truck unlocked.
Okay, if you
In
say
order to
so.
get that key.
If
Yeah.
you say so, then we didn't get that far. I just had the discussion with them that they would like us to consider.
That's probably a good thing too.
That was my understanding of the process.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, yeah, so we want to put on the, you want to
October agenda, maybe?
agenda, yeah, and we would have to advertise it, but yeah, we could get, is there any discussion on this? Do you understand what they're doing? You're actually, like when I had a property in Redline, there's a box on the side of the building.
That's
Yeah, it's however big, I mean, it depends on how many keys you have, but yeah. But, you know, so then that would be unlocked by the fire company, so like if they had a smell of gas, or they had, you know, I mean, you don't want them to tear down your door every time there's a fire alarm or anything, so they would be able to open the door. Does anyone have problems with that, or? I think it's definitely a good safety thing. It actually speeds things up too, like if there's somebody inside and there's heat or there's, you know, an odor of gas, they can get in quicker, so.
Just Just out of curiosity, how does the fire department know who has the Knox box? I mean, is it that obvious? Is it labeled or something, or do they have a list?
It's right on the, usually right on the front to the right of the door.
Yeah, there's a
Main door.
specific location.
We would have to provide that list to
Yeah.
make sure that that's up to date.
Okay.
And I think that might include Burkentine. Would that
It
include
would.
Burkentine? Do they have lobbies and they
Yeah,
have to
well,
have a key?
it would definitely include anything that was a apartment type units. I mean, it wouldn't include the townhouses themselves, because those are actually individual houses,
Right.
like your house or my house, so they wouldn't go into those, but any of the apartment buildings, they would. You probably should start by reviewing that.
Yeah.
and then we'll go from there.
I guess the real question I have is it retroactive? Or is it only for new businesses going forward?
No, it was retroactive, it was made retroactive in red line.
Yeah, and so did Shrewsbury. I think if you read that, it says retroactive to. They've been trying to get, apparently, they gave up. They talked to people here at New Freedom since 2000, and what was the date on that? Because they wanted everybody. 2002. I just thought it was a good idea. Tony Myers brought it up to me at the Shrewsbury Council meeting, and
How about we do this? I would entertain a motion to have the solicitor review the Knox box ordinance and have it prepared for our next meeting in October.
I make a motion that we do that.
Okay. I have a motion for the ordinance to be reviewed by the solicitor and available at our October meeting. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? I voted. Good.
Just for what it's worth, Shrewsbury Borough made that volunteer probably, gosh, over 10 years ago. They tried to do that, and on a volunteer basis, it didn't go over real well, but
that's probably why they did the ordinance,
I think
making it mandatory.
yeah.
Yeah, Burnell seconded it, yes. Yeah, it's not a voluntary thing. I mean, I had to do it. I didn't have a choice.
Andy, that is, and they make it pretty difficult then to get a key, right? So
You can't get a key.
so-
Like, I believe what Andrew said is correct. I think the box has to be unlocked on the truck electronically from county control. So they know you're going to 150 East High Street, and they unlock the box, and then you can go open the, the box.
Yeah, I think that's.
Because obviously, I mean, can there be a criminal activity? Yeah, I guess. I mean, anyone could steal something and make a copy or whatever, but, I mean, you gotta kind of, at some point, I think this is for the greater good.
Yeah, I think that was probably the opposition people had.
No, yeah, nobody has it.
You'd have to get one with the ordinance here at the Borough.
Right, yeah. Okay.
The only comment I wanted to make is that for medical practices that have drugs, especially narcotics, pharmacies, you would have to have, well, you could let them in, but you have to be triple locked for a narcotics box, so they might have to add a third lock inside, because, when the fire comes in,
Right.
it still has to be 3 locks between an individual.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a quick question. If you want me to draft it for the next meeting, just for review, or you want to get it advertised for the next meeting?
I think we could get it advertised. Do you think we can get it advertised for the next meeting?
I mean, I can get it
There's
advertised.
no rush. I mean, we've not had it forever.
We haven't had it since 2002,
Yeah,
so.
just draft it
Okay.
and we'll review it.
Because the one thing in here that's gonna be, I always get this question, so they have $100 as the minimum fee, and $600 is the maximum. And under the Borough Code, $600 is the maximum for this type of ordinance. But do you want 100 to be the minimum, or do you want a higher amount or lower amount? That would be the one thing you want to think
It has
about.
to be cost, we see whatever the cost is, right? Or is this just fines?
That's a fine.
That's a fine.
That's a fine for not complying.
Gotcha.
Because we've gone, I mean, I've found a lot of places where like the parking violation is $15, and people are like, oh, I'll just pay $15.
Yeah.
So we had to jack up
with penalties. So I didn't know if that was something, just keep that in mind when
Yeah.
we do the draft.
Yeah. So you're gonna take that and draft it?
Yeah, I can pull it offline.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you can
We'll
keep
have
your
all
Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Huh?
No, I was just gonna say aye.
Aye. I know.
And I will let Tony know that we are
Moving ahead.
moving ahead. That's all I have.
Manager report?
You have the report in front of you tonight. Just a couple updates on things. Still moving forward on the DCNR grant. DCNR is in the process of selecting 3 consultants. They'll send those consultants down to us for review, and Shrewsbury Township and New Freedom will select a consultant, keep the process moving forward. Still on schedule for the Public Works renovation to go out to bid the first week in November. Again, before that occurs, we'll do one final review by staff, looking at all the plans and the specs to make sure everything's on point. The Southern York County Regional Planning Commission, as we discussed at the last meeting, New Freedom is looking at becoming a member. We're still waiting on an update to what that actually entails. I believe they're having a little bit of difficulty finding the original joinder agreements and seeing how the cost split was handled in the past. One of the items that we're working on at this point is to secure funding through actually York County Open Space Program, which provides funding for updating comprehensive plans. And since this is a regional comprehensive plan, we're going to try to get that funding in. That's due by the end of September. We do have engineer working on some stormwater issues that we've been having out on North 2nd Street. Also looking at the park area as far as handicap accessibility and parking lot and what future improvements would look like in that area. And then the other item, just to make note of, is I know at the last meeting we discussed the peddling and solicitation ordinance. That ordinance is in the packet tonight. Kind of review. I did redline a couple things to highlight and discuss. Other than that, we still need 2 additional members for the rental housing occupancy ordinance committee. We do have one representative from Burkentine. I reached out to another company and did not get a response, so we're still looking for 2 additional members to fulfill that committee to begin that process.
Do we move ahead if do we have like a date if we can't get anyone to fill?
That's up to council.
I think we should.
We have 4 now. Will it be 1, 6?
Well, I think it's important to get people who actually own rental properties on the committee so they have a voice. But if they don't want to participate, we can't force them. So.
Was it Southern Management?
Yeah, we asked them.
I didn't get a response from them. I called them and emailed, so.
Do we know of anyone else? Who else?
I have a friend who owns some property in Georgetown,
It really should be new for me to know. Although,
well, I mean, if we're-
we don't have
I'm
anyone
saying
else.
we're struggling.
Well, that's true. Yeah, why don't you? I mean, if we can't get anyone who's, I guess they really can't complain. I mean, if we've, can you put on Savvy Citizen, and you did?
Did not yet. But we
Yeah,
did.
why don't you go ahead and do that, and just in case. Yeah, okay. Anything else?
Nope. Unless anybody has any questions.
Down under your noteworthy, meeting with Penn Waste, I guess is coming up. Can we kind of make sure that council gets a chance to see that contract?
Oh, yeah.
Because of the problems that we had this past year. And granted, we had bad weather, we had situations with they couldn't get help, they plan on having a truck and nobody'd show up. But I think we need to know that they're being penalized and what those penalties are.
They're well aware of the penalties now. That's why things have improved, I think.
What is
quite
the
a bit.
penalty?
I think it's $2,000 a day,
Okay.
isn't it?
It all depends on what the
Depends on
violation is. Yeah,
what the
there's-
violation
The,
Okay, all right.
The-
We'll get a
the
chance
initial-
to take a look at that.
yeah, the initial meeting was to discuss whether or not there was interest on extending the current contract based on what the existing contract allows. So right now, what we're trying to do is get updated numbers from Penn Waste, and then we'll talk about it. But yeah, at this point, nothing would go out before council. Council would have to authorize advertisement if we need to go out to bid, so.
I kind of thought.
You
so.
would see it, yeah.
Okay, all right. And the
It looks like we're only gonna be allowed to do a 1-year extension under, it was 3 years, but apparently the bidding law only allowed you to do a 1-year extension.
Well, let's back up a second.
Okay.
The contract says we can do 1-year extensions up to 3 times.
Right.
It doesn't say you can do a 3-year extension, which is what Penn Waste is looking for. So you have to be careful because there's a court case out there that basically says you have to go by, I'm sorry, you have to go by what's in the bidding document. You can't circumvent bidding by creating new terms and conditions once you're in the contract. So we have to follow exactly what it says. So that was the concern. So we can do 3 1-year extensions, which is what Andy and I have talked about on that. So.
The other thing is crosswalk improvements. How long do you think that's gonna be? I know PennDOT, the wheels of progress move slowly when it comes to them, but I had a phone call, 2 elderly ladies just about called it down on Main Street. They were halfway, in the middle of the road, and a car just zoomed by and, just barely missed them.
Yeah, everything's been submitted. I know the engineer did follow up with PennDOT already one time, and I think the only thing we're waiting on is that shared crosswalk agreement, which Solicitor Jones already reviewed. So we should be able to get, and that's not really holding anything up at this point. It's their review process that's holding it up.
Yeah.
Putting up a better crosswalk isn't gonna stop an idiot.
Well, I'm thinking, is that's gonna be reflective, more reflective and
Flashing
really?
signal,
Yeah, that's what I think might help
Yep.
and we're looking at that for what, Franklin and Maine?
Maine and Franklin at this, obviously, we only need HOP from PennDOT for Maine, we don't need it for Franklin, but then that basically is the boilerplate to then extend out through the borough. And not just along the trail, as other improvements go in too, so
Will
everything
we
works
go
the
out to
same.
High Street also?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great, that's great, thanks.
Crosswalk or not, I walk the dog on rail trail, and they, about half the time the cars stop. You get out to the road, you take a look and say, they're not gonna stop, so don't even bother to start. They're not stopping. So maybe this will help, especially if there's a flashing sign or something, that people pay more attention to.
Yeah.
They, about half of them stop now.
Is there any legalities with having them versus not having them?
No.
I mean, it is a pedestrian crossing, but I don't know if it had to be marked in a certain way to make it more of an infraction with the police.
It is not, no. If you're in the crosswalk and it's clear, it's painted, whether it's signed or not, doesn't make a difference.
Anything else, Diane? Sorry?
Does it say stop and walk your bike across? Is that what they say? So if half of them don't stop, they just go out in front of you.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true too.
And they have to stop sign.
That's true, yeah, they do.
I don't.
But in a crosswalk, if somebody's there, it's your obligation to,
Yeah, we got it.
yeah.
I would never found, I'd think about
I'd like to get something on Playground Alley, because I swear those kids, when they're done playing basketball, somebody's gonna get killed. They're doing 60 miles an hour out this alley back here. That's what Chief and I will be discussing next.
Okay, Mr. Solicitor.
The manager Schaefer shared with me a request from one of the Borough Council members to consider a moratorium on building in New Freedom Borough. Done a little research, and the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has passed on that already and said that municipalities do not have the authority to pass a moratorium on building.
That was for municipality, York County.
Yeah, it was from Helm Township. And in Helm Township, they were working on a new subdivision land development ordinance and zoning ordinance. And they said, time out, no new building. Well, Irv Naylor and some other folks took them to task. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court said, and I quote, however much a rapidly expanding municipality may wish to declare timeout and stop all development, such effect by whatever means achieved would be constitutionally impermissible. So it's very clear that we can't just stop building. The court analyzes the fact that the municipality's planning code does not contain the power to have a moratorium put in place on a temporary basis. And what they said was, in an 8-to-1 decision, they said, go to the legislature, and the legislature needs to put that into the MPC. That has not happened since 2000 when this was adopted. So at this point in time, the borough would not have the authority to impose a building moratorium. If you want to, I'm going to make a lot of money.
Does that answer?
Well,
I have a question first on him.
Actually, Inga has the floor, please.
well, that's a shame, because I believe the people have a right also. And I think I should have been able to read this. And I think the people should be able to be part of a vote of some kind to see what they want.
What about, Inga, what about if somebody has a piece of property that's worth $100,000 and they're hanging on to it because when they sell it, they're gonna be able to fund their grandkids' college, and now you're gonna say, well, you can't build anything on there, just because we're the Borough Council, we're saying you can't build anything because we think it's a bad idea.
My motion.
It's arbitrary.
My motion, I'm only asking for the housing, for the construction to stop for a period of 18 months. I have some literature for everybody to read.
On what grounds?
Okay, may I read the whole thing?
Sure.
I was just gonna
Yes,
ask.
absolutely.
Go
Listen,
ahead, for the record.
I'm taking medicine, so my eyes are a little blurry.
Do you have a copy? Or?
Yeah, I have a copy, please pass it. I would like to make a motion to place a moratorium on new housing construction for at least 18 months. My reason for this motion is that a complete infrastructure study needs to be completed before any additional housing should be built. The study must include the projected volume of the remaining wells in New Freedom, the estimated life expectancy of each well, including a thorough forward-looking water quality analysis. We also need estimated water costs to the residents as additional York water is consumed. A comprehensive traffic study of the affected roads after current projects are completed and at capacity. A time study of all emergency support services with current new housing requirements and projection of additional houses with projected costs for the next 5 to 10 years. The sewer system capabilities and liabilities, an exact number of EDUs remaining, including the municipality holding the EDUs, a specific inventory of the EDUs. All this must be completed before we can safely and competently agree to additional housing construction. It is only prudent these issues be addressed prior to allowing additional capacity requirement. So I'm not saying stop all housing, just come through with these requirements.
We have
Can I-
our own planning commission, we have a York County Planning Commission that reviews everything that's being done. And those things are all considered in them. And as far as the treatment plant and water are concerned, those are included too. And if the developer can't provide that, then it's not gonna happen.
Well, let me ask you this. What if, is there a possibility, I'm concerned about the citizens, that there could be a meeting, that they would have a vote and a voice, and that they could write somewhere and voice their opinion, to have perhaps have it considered?
No.
No.
Yeah.
When the Supreme Court says, however much a rapidly expanding municipality may wish to declare a timeout, which is exactly what you're
Yeah,
saying,
that's what I'm asking.
and stop all development, such effect by whatever means achieved. That means however you try to do it as a municipality would be constitutionally impermissible. They have passed on this decision and said, New Freedom Borough or any other municipality in Pennsylvania does not have the legal authority to do this. It's the law. I mean, that's what the law is in Pennsylvania, passed by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court in 2001, and it's a case out of Helmand Township.
But let me just address what your concerns are here one by one. We do have, we know how much water we have, and we've tied into York Water, so we would not allow any development if we couldn't give them water. So that's a done deal. And we don't really need York Water, but we are tied into York Water in the event of emergency. I'm sorry?
We just have to pay for it.
If you give me a minute, just let me finish
I
my
know, I
statement.
was just commenting on that, that's all.
Okay. Any developer that comes in is going to have to do a comprehensive traffic study. They're not going to be allowed to just build without doing a study. And the emergency services, I mean, hopefully, we've got our comprehensive plan in place, and that is covered there as well. The sewer capability, we know that we have enough. New Freedom Borough has approximately 500 EDUs. Shrewsbury Borough has approximately 500 EDUs. A lot of them are spoken for in Shrewsbury Borough and are attached to specific land, but we have enough to do this. So we would have to have a specific reason to do this, otherwise we're in violation. An interesting little bit of an analogy is, right now there's 50 acres sitting over on Keeney Farm, for instance, for Phil Robinson's development. If he divides them up into what he is legally allowed to do, it would be 100 lots at, say, $80K a lot, so that's $8 million that he can have. It's going to cost him about $4 million to do all the infrastructure, so he's going to make about $4 million. If it's ag land, he's going to make $250,000. So we, as a council, cannot take away from him his rights to build there. We have already put together, and again, addressing the people's concern, the people have zoning in place. We have a planning commission, we have zoning. We have successfully, I think, the people have successfully mounted a case where the developer in that area has pulled his high-density plan, which he had come in here, as you all may remember, with a high-density plan. So he stopped that. Then he put in a text amendment to take the half-acre lots that are required and get them down to 12,000 square foot lots. And he's pulled that text amendment as well because he knows it's not going to make it through York Planning and New Freedom Planning. But we cannot legally, constitutionally stop him from developing land that's already been designated and zoned as half-acre lots. We can't do that.
But if he wants to do something like you're talking about, Andy, the process works. He's got to jump through so many hoops, whether it's zoning hearing board, whether it's a variance, whether it's a text amendment, and it didn't fly, and guess what? He didn't do it, because the process works. It works just the way it's supposed to.
And he may or may not decide to build with the lesser number of houses and lots, but if he does, we can't stop. I mean, you know, Burnell and I made a joke one time about, you know, legally, you can put a strip club or an adult bookstore down where Man and Parker is. That's zoned for that. If someone actually wanted to do that, we couldn't stop them. It is zoned for that. As long as they met all of the requirements, that's where it would go. We cannot take our current law and change it from sitting here. It's just not legal.
What if, oh, I'm still on. What if the builder, a little bird gave me the information, so I'm not gonna pass it on from whom, owns a lot of taxes and hasn't paid those taxes to the government?
Well, now you're talking
There's
out of
something
school.
like that.
You know what, I'm gonna stop you right there because I don't really want to know somebody else's business, and I don't think it's appropriate to
No, I just
discuss
want-
somebody else's
I'm just
tax
questioning.
business in
I'm just, you know, I'm
in
just
public.
questioning.
Can I
I'm trying to cover all the angles
Right.
for the people.
Just listen to this language. However much a rapidly expanding municipality may wish to declare a timeout and stop all development, such effect by whatever means necessary. Right?
Yeah,
That's everything.
yeah.
Would be constitutionally impermissible, which means we can't do it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't care if it's X, Y, or Z's development. At the basis, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has ruled on this issue and says municipalities don't have the authority to do it.
Yeah,
So you can come up with whatever
yeah.
methodology, whatever justification, whatever the case may be. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has said you can't do it because we don't have that power. And in Pennsylvania and other states, we're subject to Dillon's rule. And unless this legislature gives a municipality the authority to do something,
Yeah.
they don't have it.
Well, I understand it's a sad day for the citizens, and, but at least I can say it's not the council, we, the council, did not make that decision.
It's not.
It
It's,
is
yeah.
not us, we, the council member, probably would have listened to the citizens and paid attention to, you know, what their wishes were.
But they-
So that we kind of
they-
relieves
they-
us as council
They
people.
can, Inga, when there's a plan, I mean, how many times have we had either a borough council meeting or, ask Brian, a planning commission meeting, you'll have people show up to comment on a plan, whoever's plan it is.
Yep. That's one of the points I want to make. There was a lot of people who showed up. We had a lot of feedback with York County Planning Commission who voted against the text amendments and some other things that this developer wanted. So he went through the process, and I believe the process worked.
It does work.
Yeah, the process does work. It did.
Well, at least I can pass it along, it is not the council. The council member would have had
Pass
compassion.
along, if you don't mind, there is a process, and, you know, it involves our planning commission, our borough council, and York County Planning Commission, and it does work. Andrew just gave you an example of Phil's request to try to put in high-density housing out there, and it didn't fly, and he withdrew the plan. You know,
Well, I tried.
Can I just make one other comment, though?
Sure.
People sometimes forget that Pennsylvania at its base is a property rights state, which means if you own your property, it starts with the proposition that you can do what you want to within the law. So when we have a subdivision or land development plan that comes in, the law is if it meets all the requirements set forth in the ordinance, it is legally entitled to be approved. So I understand you're saying that the citizens who live here, who may not own that land, have a different view on that, but the people that own that land have rights as well. And I think that's what
Yes.
Councilman Sargent was talking about. And in Pennsylvania, that is a very highly protected right. It is. You can shake your head all you want,
No,
but
I'm not shaking my head.
in Pennsylvania, it is. So, I mean, that's what you have to start with, that basis that there are certain requirements and there are certain protections that are afforded to property owners, whether their neighbors like what they're doing on the property or not. Like the strip club that Man and Parker. It's just, that is what Pennsylvania law, property rights are based upon.
We're doing that next week.
Well, thank you for the
Although that's light
explanation.
industrial down there, does that follow? light
Yes, it does.
industrial?
Yes.
And they have to wear hard hats?
You waited patiently, we'll take one more comment, but it's an
I have a
illegal.
question.
Go
I
ahead.
have a question. All right, we had a water increase in January. Andrew says we're probably gonna have another increase this January. When the homes for Phil Robinson are going to be put in, he stated that he would pull the water from York Water Company. All right, if that water comes in at a higher rate than what we're all paying right now, all right, is that increase only gonna be billed to those homes that Phil
Yes.
Robinson's put in?
Yes, he's
It
going to
will not
tap
be-
into York water. He's not tapping into New Freedom water. He's tapping into York.
Up on Washington Avenue.
No, they actually ran a water line down through Strawberry Fields, and he's gonna tap into the water line there, and that is strictly York water. Has nothing whatsoever to do with New Freedom.
Then how is the sewers supposed to be billed? I thought our sewer bill was based on our water usage.
You can get your water company.
Yeah, they'll still tell us what it is, and that's how we'll bill our sewer.
Okay, and so infrastructure, if it goes up with the police calls, with the fire calls, we're already, strapped with fire and emergency calls now with the additional homes. I'm not saying we don't want additional homes, we just want to know that we can support in every way. And emergency, fire, our police costs are going to go up. They've already started going up because of the calls. So having a study, is that so very wrong to make sure that, I don't know.
I absolutely agree with you. I think we should have the study, but I also absolutely agree with the solicitor that the state Supreme Court has ruled that New Freedom Borough Council is not allowed to stop building. That is not what we're allowed to do.
May I say one more thing? That case that he's citing was because, and I'm not saying that I'm disagreeing with what his interpretation of the Supreme Court, but was because a council, a municipality, put a moratorium on it so that they could change the zoning. And that was just totally, we're not looking to change the zoning. We're not looking to stop the homes. We're looking to make sure that we have support. That's it. If we can ask for that information, those reports, that would be super. We have no knowledge of what our water system is. We have 8 wells, but we only use 4. What happened to the other? What is the time limit on those wells? How long are they viable? Will we be going to York Water Company just for the existing people in New
As
Freedom?
long as the water table remains stable, which it has been, I mean, we don't have any problems. Well, pretty much we have I'm sorry?
I'll tell you, speaking from experience, the groundwater here, at least in this area, is very high. My sump pump will guarantee that.
I understand that, but we show wells 1 through 8, but only 4 are viable. What happened to the other 4?
I think Donnie has to explain.
He's not, he has not had a
Explain
lacrosse
because
game.
he'll run some longer, some shorter, and he has a schedule. And, they run the way he wants them to run, and it works. Again, we don't interfere on how he operates the water system, because he's been doing it for a long time.
I'm not trying to interfere, I'm just trying to understand.
I know, speaking with Donnie, when I did a tour with him a while ago, if you go out New Freedom, like you're gonna go to the high school, there's the one shed right there. I don't remember the exact number of that well. There's also, if you go a little further down, about 100 yards, there's like a little mound of dirt. That's another pump. That pump goes to the other well house with the structure. That one actually registers where it's treated and everything. The actual house shed building, that one actually ran dry a number of years ago. So that's why that one, like many years ago, from what he was saying.
Right, it was instant. It was like.
Yeah, it's just, I guess it just happens. I've never had well water at a house that I've ever lived at. But that's, at least for those two, that's what happens. But it gets counted where it gets treated. And that's at the well house that you first get to going towards school.
And I think
I mean, no,
he alternates how those pumps and well houses operate. He goes, I can, if you want the water report, I can give it to you, that shows you exactly what we have for each well.
Right.
And he alternates each one of those pumps, just like you would alternate something at your home. You don't want to use the same one all the time. We use a different well for a certain amount of time, then we switch over, and, then we might do repairs to it, we might put, new seals.
This might help you a little bit. I don't know if it will or not, but we as a council and we as a municipality have come up with a comprehensive plan. And we've come up with zoning to take into consideration the comprehensive plan. The EDUs that we have currently were done by, 20 years, 15 years, 20 years ago. And basically a survey was done of all the developable land in New Freedom, and each one was assigned an EDU in case it was ever developed. We as a municipality owe it to our citizens. That's why Kim and I and Ann are working with the fire company to try to come up with the best way to have ambulance, EMS service, and fire service, because we owe that to our citizens. We walk a knife edge with that. We are required to provide you with EMS. We are required to provide you with fire services. So we are trying to do our best to keep the costs down and the service quality high, so that you have that ability to use those different services. We owe to whoever develops the Keeney farm, or anyone who develops whatever, we owe it to them to provide that same level of EMS and fire and water and sewage. We can't, as a council, say to them, yeah, you can't build there because we're not going to provide you the services. If we wanted to do that, then back whenever the zoning was written, we should have said, we don't ever want that land to be developed. We're going to put that in ag preservation, and that's going to stay there.
That wasn't, I'm not using it to eliminate construction. I'm trying to make sure that we're prepared when the construction starts, that we have the infrastructure for everything. And I've never seen a complete water report. This is not,
What do you want? I mean, this is the monthly report that's submitted. You're asking for a comprehensive study that's gonna cost an unbelievable
Lord
amount of
knows
money.
what.
And as Councilman Sarpin said, a well can go dry the next day. That report's gonna say what that well is producing at that time. It's not going to, you're asking for it to spend an exorbitant amount of money on a study that's not gonna produce any kind of solid result for the
then
future.
why does York County Planning have a model water supply well testing ordinance that they would love to see the municipalities pass? It's not required, it is voluntary, but it does go into looking at the viability of your wells, looking at the lifetime of your wells, looking at the water in your
Marcia,
wells.
because they don't have to pay for it, it's a good idea, but the county won't have to pay for it. That's number one. Two, our people submit a report to DEP monthly. That's only part of it. We do the test that DEP requires monthly. There's plenty of regulation already.
I understand, it's.
I guess what I would have to say to you, I mean, if you're passionate enough to do it, I mean, if you came up with something that showed that there was a problem that we could do something about, but we don't feel, at least at this point, we don't have a problem with sewage, we don't have a problem with water, we're working on fire and EMS. I don't know what else we can do other than to enforce the zoning that is already in place. You can't spot zone, you can't change the zoning.
You can't.
And you can't tell someone we're gonna have a building moratorium per state law. So I don't know what the council can do to address the issue that you're bringing up. If there's not a problem,
Well, in the council's mind, there's not a problem, but in a lot of citizens' minds, we do have a problem with some of our infrastructure. But if you say it's addressed, then fine. It's all taken care of.
If
Got
you,
the sign
you can
in.
contact your legislator and see if they would sponsor a bill to provide for a temporary moratorium to do the things you're asking. I mean, that's what this case says.
Yeah.
It says that the municipality doesn't have the authority as stated in municipalized planning. That's what it says. And it says you need to go back to the legislature should take that on, study it, look at it, come out with a law or tell us that. And they make reference to a lot of other states that have that law, those laws in place. And they said, we declined to go the way they went. It was up to the legislature to tell us, the citizens, municipalities, whether they can do it or not.
In that case, it was what, 2001, Dave, right?
Yeah, it was 2001. It
What's
started.
the legislature done since then?
They haven't done anything with this issue.
Yeah.
They have not done anything with this issue.
Were there any other questions?
Mike, word?
I was just,
Does the
yeah,
municipality
my only
have power
concern,
to limit the number of lots within the zoning, within the area?
They already do.
Zoning.
Well, yeah, under zoning, it is limited.
So you say you changed it from like a eighth of an acre up to a half an acre? These lots? Is that what you said?
No, the zoning currently on that property are half-acre lots.
So
They'd ask to
we just
reduce
assume
it.
that they'll stay
They asked to
half-acre
make them
lots,
smaller.
which is larger than what's in Freedom Hills right now.
That's correct, yes.
So
And that was
it's
one of the
12
arguments they made.
Yeah,
They
that's,
said, you already have it in Freedom Hills that small, why
That's
don't you make it
fair.
for us here?
But again, it's part of the process. The process works. They came, they didn't get a favorable ruling, and they threw in a towel and said, okay, fine, we'll withdraw the plan.
Not that it won't come back again later, but
Mr. President, I think.
yeah,
Mike,
just
Mr.
a
Warden.
comment. I grew up in Cypress, California, which was very New Freedom-ish. It's in Orange County, just south of LA. And when I was a kid, Cypress was a dairy farm and it had strawberry fields all over. Now it's a complete cement jungle. There is no breaks in cement. And living in New Freedom, and I love this community. I would protect it if attacked, whatever. I love this place, and I just hope that it doesn't go the way I saw Cypress go. And one of the ways that they did it was the density, building small, affordable places where 20 people could fit into one apartment. And it just grew that way. And then that population had the run of things because they were the majority. And it just started that way. And my only fear is that.
and I
it's
agree
a
with you, and I'm
back
right there with
direction.
you. I mean, I love this town, and I will also would defend it. But the point being is, we stopped the high density from going.
And I hear
We
that.
stopped the
Yeah.
reduced lot sizes. It's gonna be, I mean, even if it does get developed, which I'm sure it will someday, whether I'm alive to see it or not, someday it's gonna get developed. But it'll be half-acre lots under our current zoning.
Yeah, and at least that, right, it's
Yeah,
not
I mean, that's-
eight-story apartments or
And that's,
something. But
that's all we could do at
the
this point.
solicitor's statement
It's
is
a current
about
law.
as cut and dry as you can get.
Yeah, it is.
That's not even my statement, that's the
Right.
court statement.
It's
Right.
over,
Yeah.
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 Any opposition is over.
As long as
And if we want to change the zoning ordinance to make it quarter-acre lots or 1-acre lots, we'll have to go through our planning commission, we'll have to go through the York County Planning Commission, we'll have to have an advertised meeting, and anybody that wants to come here. And so, yes, we'd like to do that. We want to have more people in New Freedom, or no, we don't want to change. That's your
Right.
opportunity to voice that, because it'll be advertised. It's not done in secret.
And
Again,
then
it's a
council would have
process.
to approve it or deny it on top of those other two.
It comes so quickly, like
Yeah.
a tsunami, you don't see
That's
it
sad,
until
isn't
it's
it?
on you.
Yeah, that California, that's a whole different.
Yeah,
I mean, San Francisco has recently done away with single-family residential house zoning,
right.
so they may have multiple families living in single-family residences. So you're talking about increasing density without any sort of controls.
I have friends who live in Frisco, and they have to take a special shuttle to get to their parking lot for their car. So
That
they don't
won't
get
happen.
outside to get in their car. They
Yeah.
have to take a service to it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have a quick question. When did you annex all this land into Borough?
I'm sorry?
When was all this land annexed into the borough?
Where's the borough line?
The borough line actually is Kirshner Road. So it's
When I
changed.
sold my farm, I was told by the borough council, well, I wasn't, the developer was. My land and the Rare Farm are the only two developing farms in the borough.
Except for the Keith,
Yeah,
Except
he
for the
was
Ludder
Keeney.
farm.
Yeah, the old Ludder
They
farm,
never-
you
they
and I,
never
you
said
and I
that.
know it as the Ludder farm.
Yeah, the Ludder farm.
But I think, was that originally agriculture, and now it is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was zoned, yeah, that's how it was zoned.
But in
It
the
was- yeah.
meantime, what I'm saying, in the meantime, I don't even know the name of these streets and what have you, they're way out there.
But
They're in the borough.
They are, yeah.
Yep. some
I don't think
of
we've
them are,
changed-
and some of them
How
are in
much
Shrewsbury
land is
Township.
gonna go into the borough?
We have to change the rural boundary line in
Yeah,
in the 42 years I've lived here.
yeah.
I've been here 82.
Well.
Well, they might, maybe it did. I don't remember any annexing. I mean, we actually did at one time talk about annexing what is now Hamilton Crossing because it butted up against us.
Yeah,
But that
was
never
not the
happened,
borough.
that never happened.
No, that's in Shrewsbury
That's not
Township.
Shrewsbury
That's
Township.
Shrewsbury
For
Township.
what it's
Right.
worth, since the mid-70s, the only way to annex land is to have a referendum vote in both the municipality that wants to annex and municipality in which the land would come from. It has to be approved by 2/3 of the votes in each one of those municipalities. To my knowledge, it has not happened in New Freedom Borough, and I wasn't around in 1976, but I can tell you in the 21 years I've worked in the borough, it has not happened. So I can't tell you, as far as I know, the borough limits have stayed the same since they were
When
implemented.
the school bought the land on the other side of the borough line, okay?
That's township.
That's township, I understand. But they said, when that school, if they decide to build a school and a recreation complex, then New Freedom would annex that land into New Freedom.
They may hope that, but.
There may have been a request from the school district at that
No,
point in
I'm
time
not
if
saying it
happened.
was, no, I just,
I can recall a discussion about that.
Yeah.
It never happened.
no.
There was discussion about New Freedom annexing
Right.
railroad because
Yeah.
the railroad
Yeah.
situation
Yep.
too. That never happened.
That never happened either.
It's a very difficult process to get 2/3 of the people on both sides of the line
I
to
hope
vote
I'm
for.
not red line when they do it.
I'm wondering if some of the confusion is that the house that you're talking about on Keeney, on Kirshner with Keeney Farm, the house and the barn and everything are in the township.
Yeah, that's true.
But basically the property, or the borough township property line goes up the backside of the barn. So the acreage on the left side of Kirshner, so Kirshner is not actually the borough line. The line is
Right.
probably several hundred yards into that field.
Yeah.
So I don't know if, you
Well,
said like the
New
farm,
Freedom Borough line is, and my property line are one and the same.
Yeah, because you're out in the
Yeah.
borough.
but here on the other side of town, maybe they're thinking because of the house and everything, or some of that land and then other
Yeah, I
land to
didn't
the
think
right.
the house was in that borough.
The house itself is in the township, but the rest with the other light industrial stuff that they wanted to change is in the borough. That's the stuff that goes Mann and Parker and also Eden Tools.
Yeah.
So, we done with this?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Okay. Engineers report, monthly progress report.
Hold on, do we skip the sale of the,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll give you an update on that. So after the meeting, someone said, hey, isn't there a lease on that property that the borough receives money from? Well, that makes sense why maybe someone wanted to buy it. So we're researching that. Unfortunately, the manager Schaefer, and the zoning officer could not find that. I finally made contact with the former manager. She says there is not a lease on that property. You're still checking on that, I believe, to double check?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, we're getting $3,200 from something.
Well, but there are some other leases apparently throughout the borough.
Oh, okay.
She said there's not on that one, but there's a Verizon lease somewhere else in the borough.
That's down across from the treatment center.
that's Comcast.
Oh, that's Comcast.
Yes, so what we're trying, before we put that out to bid, and know, everyone needs to know what they're bidding on. So we didn't put that out yet until we have this nailed down, exactly what is being bid on, and so everyone has the same opportunity to bid on it, so Borough Council knows what's being put out.
Does this change anything from the previous meeting?
It does not, we're just waiting for that information before we put it out. It has to be bid. It has to go out in the public, there has to be a public notice. So whenever I put something out for bid for a municipality, I want to make sure we have every single piece accurate so that everyone who wants to bid on it knows exactly what they're bidding on.
Okay, but I don't think everybody here knew what we were voting on at the last meeting. I'm saying we agreed with the sale part, but we didn't understand, or maybe I didn't understand.
It didn't come up till, it didn't even actually come up, that question didn't even come up
And that's why I'm
until I
asking
said
if any of what you found changes any of that, does it have to be brought back up for another vote? Because
It would have to be brought up.
Yeah, if it would turn out, that someone's paying us $10,000 a month for a lease, absolutely we're bringing that back. That's not the case. We just need, we need to figure out whether there's actually a lease or not.
Well, I think before we go out for bid,
Right.
I want to see it come back to council so we know exactly
Yeah.
what's going on.
Thank you.
I want to make sure you guys know exactly what you're doing.
Okay.
Yes?
Yeah.
I think it was brought up that an individual requested
There-
information on, can we know who the individual was, or is that?
It was one of the interested bidders.
But
He was at the meeting.
We can't say
He
who
was
it
at the meeting
is.
last.
No, he expressed interest after we brought
Yeah.
up the sale. I don't believe he was the originating
Oh, you're talking about
person.
Brett
Yeah.
Turner? Brett, that was afterwards, when he found
Yeah,
out
that was
about
an
it. He wanted to
afterthought.
put in a bid once he found out. But apparently there was somebody that we put in, wanted information and wanted to buy it, but can we know who that was or not?
I don't know that they're gonna come forward as an individual or if they're gonna go through a third party.
I thought we already know who it is. They're requesting.
I don't
If it's
wanna violate.
confidential,
I just
it's
don't-
confidential.
You don't know if that person's gonna bid or not,
Yeah.
so I don't like to
I
speak for
think-
anyone.
Okay, that's fine.
If that's fair, you
Yeah.
know?
That's fine.
That
I
we
think,
just know
I
a
think you
request
could,
came
I
in
think you
from
could
that.
ask that question in our executive session if you wanted.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
That would probably work.
Can I ask a question? Where is the property on Pleasant Avenue?
It's basically across from Sealing and Jones, which is behind Eaton Tool.
It's a big open field.
Yeah.
Except for the
It's-
Freedom Dump Spot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
It's-
there's,
Their parking lot? The parking lot?
No.
no, it's,
No, it's right along the railroad.
Right.
It's kind of like a triangle shape. I think it's about 5, almost 6 acres possibly.
A wooded area?
Wooded area, yeah.
On the left there for the railroad tracks.
yeah, you can't
Not-
drive
it's
back
not
there,
buildable.
it's chained off.
After the railroad.
It's partially wet.
And what's the equipment that's sitting back there on the left? Do you know? There's equipment sitting back there, it looks like a substation. or
That's the
Oh,
Verizon.
that's the lease we're talking
Verizon.
about.
Oh, okay.
That's the, and I made 3 calls till I got the individual that is in charge of the leases for Verizon, and I left her 3 voicemails and 2 emails, and I had not gotten a return call. So until we can actually put hands on that lease, really, this is kind of dead in the water.
Yeah, we really need to figure it out, because obviously if we're getting $3,000 a year from a lease on a piece of property, we could do one of 2 things. We could keep the property so we continue to get the $3,000, or we could subdivide off about 10,000 square feet, and which is what the tower is sitting on, and we keep that, and we could bid out the rest if that's what we so choose. So I mean, so it's up in the air right now until we figure out.
So we don't have good information for the Borough Council, we want to make sure you have good information. That's right.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Engineering.
You have in front of you the monthly progress report from Newcart Horn from August 6th to September 9th, noting the different projects and the actions taken on those projects during that period. I can answer any questions if you have any. I will say that project number 1, which is the dewatering improvements, we did receive notification from PW Tech in regards to the testing that was done on the dewatering system. They are basically, we'll be looking at some form of liquidated damages at the end of that contract. Basically, they want to wash their hands of it, and
They sue it.
well, I guess, okay.
Sorry, I'm in rare for it.
That was a bad,
It was a bad job. They didn't meet the specs for
That's what it is.
performance,
Basically,
so
they're not performing to what they say.
they're not
they could.
performing to their strengths.
And Rod, they just want to watch, see, they just want to be done with the project. I tried to say it again. They just want to be done with the project. What's that?
Damn decent amount for that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hefty amount. They tried to show that they didn't meet the spec on one thing, but met it on the other, and then take credit of that. Well, that doesn't work. Good try,
Yeah.
but it doesn't work that way. So their number and our number are gonna be a little different, but I think we'll be able to come to an agreement, get that project closed out, and move forward.
Well, the starting point should be what it would have produced at the spec they advertised. Yeah, they met the spec, and then the delta between the two would be, yeah. So that's gonna be a big one. I wanted to mention too, we did get a letter from Summit Grove Campground. Dennis and I met with them, and Andrew met with them. They have found that their cost for water and sewer was $20,000 to $30,000 per year, and now that they've taken care of a lot of the leaks, it's dropped down to 17. So it's about half of what it was. And this year they're on track to spend less than $10,000. So we've saved them a lot of money and us a lot of water. So it worked really well that they've been cooperative. So that's Summit Grove. Yeah.
That swimming pool's fed by a well. I figured you did.
I'd be more than happy to help myself up to their free of charge.
I don't know, do you think you can get that in one more time? Third time?
I'll see what's left on the meeting here, but I think I can.
I'll tell you what, I'll have a competition with you.
Oh, yeah, I think he's gonna win.
What, me or him?
He'll win.
Yeah.
Okay, water system report? Does anyone have any questions on that? Okay.
Sewer system, I do.
Okay.
Everybody can remember Ida, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, we get 5 or 6 inches of rain. So I'm down the treatment plant this morning. And, they've been there like they usually are, 1 or 2 bits all night, a couple people there all night. And the plant peaked at a rate, now this isn't how much came in during the day, but a rate of 9 million gallons a day. It's a 2.25 MGD plant. But it's computerized and it's a batch process, and it goes into storm mode, and it did what it was supposed to do. It didn't overflow tank, they had to be down there. At one point, they even had to operate things manually. But when I was down there the next morning, it was down to 2.2 MGD. So,
yeah.
I have to talk to John because, it goes up fast, it comes down fast, which to me is an inflow problem, not an infiltration
Right.
problem. So we should be looking at that. But anyways, the plant did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah. I think that, and they need commended for what they do. I mean,
Yeah, they were there.
it's almost magic to me that they could take 9 million gallons of water a day and get it, process it without exceeding. Yeah, I mean, it's just huge.
Yeah. They were babysitting.
there are multiple plants in York County that overflowed, so.
Yeah, so, and we didn't, so that's just like huge for us, I think. Okay, zoning and code enforcement. We've already talked about it, but I do want to point out that the zoning text amendment was pulled from York County Planning, so it never made it to our planning commission, so that was pulled.
On the code enforcement report, there's a couple property owners that have a compliance date that's in NA. Is there really going to be a date, or is there some, you know, I'm looking at one in particular, 39 East Main Street. His yard doesn't look a whole lot better than it used to. It's been a couple of months. So anyways, I don't know if there's any discussion about, all right, we can actually talk about a compliance date when we said a couple of months. Nothing's happening, so.
Yeah, usually
I
we.
thought 39 East Main was quite a bit of improvement.
I thought it was too.
Yeah.
It's definitely better, but usually we show NA after the date has passed, and if there's any action after that. It's kind of the same with the criminal complaints that have been filed.
Yeah, right, I understand that, yeah. All right.
We'll take a look at that one though.
I will tell you, after talking to him, it's tough. He had a lot of work to do. He realized
Well, he spent
that
a lot
he's
of time
trying to,
accumulating all that crap too.
you know, he's one person and his wife's disabled, and it's tough. But he's been trying to comply. I will say that, not that it doesn't have to be a little to be desired, but he's trying.
I think the effort speaks a lot too. I mean, you know, people are willing to try to work with us to get the property back in shape.
A lot of this stuff obviously isn't going to change overnight.
Yeah.
Again, if it's month after month.
Yeah. Anything else on the zoning? Code enforcement?
Just a question real quick. On making improvements to your home and so forth, is there all the rules in the borough documentation online?
Yes. The zoning and you can apply for a building permit now, or that'll be next month?
The new website.
The new website, yeah, you'll actually
website.
be able to apply for a building permit online. That should hopefully be the end of next month.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And if you're not,
I'm making promises.
I was going to say.
Soon, very
can we
soon.
at least go live with it, even though some things may not be.
I might twitch, but.
I might call it the Death Star. It's never going to be fully operational.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Mike, if you're not sure, you can always call the office and they'll let you know, because there's
I
certain
was thinking
things
that,
you
and
do
then
need.
I didn't want to bother them
permit.
with, well, you should be able to go to,
There-
I want to put up a shed and a foundation and whatnot, but I didn't even know if that took, you know.
Well,
I just saw
a
here.
10 by 10 shed, you can put up without any problem. If you go beyond 10 by 10, then you have to, right? I think I'm right on that. If you go beyond, and larger than 10 by 10, you have to put up a slab or, you know, and you have to apply and show what impermeable area you have left and whatnot.
Okay, 10 by 10, great, thank you.
But you could call the borough office and talk to Wade, and he'd be more than happy.
Okay,
I think
great.
Brenda probably could tell you all the stuff on sheds. Either talk to Brenda.
Great, thank you.
Okay. We kind of already said about the text amendment request update.
Show them that the process works.
Do you have anything to say about any of that? No? Okay. Recreation.
They did have a meeting the other day, but the biggest thing to come out of that was, I believe they are canceling the Veterans Day with some of the Delta variant starting to ramp up in the area. They're concerned about some of the older individuals that would be in attendance. So I think that is a done deal that the Veterans Day is canceled.
What about the chili cook-off? Just out of
They're modifying that into something else later in the year with some more details to come.
The only reason I bring it up is NCR wanted to do something with them with Cowboy Days and the chili cook-off. I don't know if they want to approach them.
I don't think that's.
That's not gonna happen.
I don't think there's enough time.
Yeah.
From what they were saying.
They did ask for the update, and I had just talked to Andrew, I think the day before, about the DCNR, and all the information with that. Just wanting to know where they were in the process, so they're eager to get that going, but I told them they were more than likely a year out before we would see anybody in that position.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's probably true.
Yeah, I just.
The trouble is, I mean, I wouldn't even, I even asked that can we hire the person and then back, reimburse ourselves with the grant whenever it's approved, but you're not allowed to do that. If you hire them ahead of time,
It's gonna be on your own dime.
yeah, you're on your own dime.
Yeah, benefits, everything else.
Yeah.
Three-quarter and everything else.
Yeah, you lose all that.
Yeah. That was the big stuff, right? Oh, Gaga Pit, I know, he's meeting with Donnie this week.
Yeah, they have it stenciled out where to install it. I believe they're gonna work on it this weekend.
They are. He sent around a sign-up genius looking for volunteers for the 17th and 18th. I'll probably be down there at some point on both days, but we have to divide and conquer with kids' activities this weekend throughout the day. So that is going on this weekend at the park. So glad to hear that they found the current area.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get that finished, the Gaga Pit, how can we, right now you've got the safety netting down,
Yeah.
where, how are we gonna get safety netting around where that Gaga Pit's gonna go if he can't get finished? I mean, isn't it supposed to rain at the end of the week?
I don't know, the other lady was trying to go.
See what I'm saying? We don't want somebody falling in there if there
Yeah.
is no fence.
Well, they would,
But our
this
guys
won't
are
be
gonna be
excavated.
off.
This won't be excavated. This will
Okay,
just-
so there's
this is-
no
Yeah, they picked an area.
liability
Yep.
there for,
It's a flat area.
okay.
What about the material? Will he be able to access everything on the weekend?
Yeah, they're working with that out
They
with
got that
Donnie.
worked out?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Ann, did you have anything else that you wanted to?
Pretty much everything that I had in my report, we've discussed already, but I did make a list that we're going to hand off to the mayor as liaison, because we do want to see a 3 to 5 year plan from the ambulance. We have already discussed the fact that Glenrock and Rose probably will be merging, but just to let everybody know that we will be meeting again either October 11 or 12, and we're hoping to get more information from DCED. DCED did suggest $50 per head responsibility for New Freedom, which would be $231,000. That would be our fair share.
But that does not consider
The
the
reimbursement.
reimbursements or anything. See, that's why we really need, DCED is telling us we need.
Numbers and percentages.
Yeah.
But so that we can make sure that we're not overly burdening our citizens.
Okay. Resolution establishing security camera policies and procedures. Did
Because
everyone?
we've already done this and done this.
Yeah, we've already reviewed it. This was just advertised.
It's been advertised, so
Yeah.
can I make a motion that we
Yeah.
adopt the resolution?
Oh, we didn't?
You have to advertise.
Oh, okay.
We did.
You do not need to, you don't have to.
We don't have to, but I'm still gonna make that motion.
Is it appropriate this is a resolution and not an ordinance?
Yes.
Yeah, there's no question. It's fine to be a resolution, you just don't have to adopt a resolution. You have to advertise a resolution for adoption.
Okay,
That's all.
I'm just asking.
So I make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion to adopt our resolution for cameras.
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay. Review of current peddling and solicitation ordinance.
So this is the current chapter 156. Like I said earlier, I went through and I know the request was to limit time and not have it be an annual registration based on feedback from the last meeting. So, I mean, this can be other changes. The only thing this doesn't, would eliminate would be, if you have a food truck come in that wants to set up, they would only be able to set up one time within, it would only be issued for 7 calendar days. So if you do have pop-up food truck events that you would want to restrict under this ordinance, that could cause a problem going forward unless you specifically call out food trucks as a separate form of head license.
Well, as an example, if we take the food trucks that we had for the concerts, we're having them for 3 concerts over a period of 45 days.
I think your events are different than them just popping up in a neighborhood and saying, we're gonna be here at this time.
Gotcha, okay. That falls more under peddling, I guess, really. Okay.
Yeah, that's just, so how would any of this affect something like Freedom Fest or something like that?
No, because it's an event.
Yeah. So that we can consider food trucks as part of the event.
I would, yes.
That's,
right.
Can you put in here something about with the exceptions as determined by the council or something, because,
Well, you don't want to get on that.
I was gonna say, that sounds like a slippery slope.
Yeah.
You don't want to do exceptions.
How come they gave him an
To be
exception
approved
and
by
I don't get an exception?
If you define an exception in there and it says it's this, that's fine. You don't want it on a case-by-case basis.
Can we, I was gonna say, how can we do like an annual version also in this? So like,
That would only apply to a specific type of vending, I would think you could.
like, if we could say like mobile.
They're all
I
mobile.
mean, they are, but they're working out of a mobile shop. You know, somebody selling windows door to door isn't working out of a,
Right.
they're not selling it out the window of a truck.
I think you're almost gonna have to call it out and just say food trucks and similar.
Well, the issue, the one peddler that a lot of people have trouble with is that one meat delivery truck.
I was thinking that.
That comes around.
We've got extra meat.
Right, and they knock on your door, and like, we have this, they're actually selling out of the truck, but they're knocking on your door.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you gotta be real careful with that, and they're kind of shady characters.
I had one walk behind me in my driveway
Yeah.
and startled me. It was a young girl. And I didn't know where the heck she came from, because I didn't see the truck.
Those
It was
are the
down
ones
street.
that, a lot of municipalities have troubles with, they get a lot of complaints about those folks, because they appear out of nowhere.
They do.
They have this truck with meat on it, and.
Or furniture.
Well,
A lot of times
yeah.
they'll do furniture.
I don't know about
too.
furniture, but the one I hear about is the meat truck.
Yeah,
It's really not like.
yeah, they were around not too long ago.
So how do we want to do this?
Well, this can just be, you know, more discussion at this point, yeah. We don't need to, no.
Okay.
And the other one is like, I don't know if you guys have them, but the fireworks tents, you guys have them anywhere in town?
Never been in New
Or
Freedom.
Easter flowers,
It's always in
Mother's Day
Shrewsbury.
flowers.
Oh, wait a minute, we've got one over here on the
Oh,
pond,
you're right, the seed,
remember?
the old seed company.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
right.
that's-
I forgot about that.
Yeah, but that's their business, is that their
They're
business?
based in New York now, but they do come back, I think, once or twice a year.
Mother's Day and stuff like that?
Those are just some of
Yeah.
the examples that I see in other municipalities that they complain about. Which may agree with you.
But they're not going around from door to door or anything, so it wouldn't be peddling or soliciting, right? It's a stationary,
It's typically they say a fixed location, it's a brick and mortar. It's not a tent. You guys can find another one. It all lies in the definitions. Everything you're trying to regulate here lies in your definition. What's peddling, what's fixed, what's transient, what's, you know.
I think peddling is going door to door.
And if that's what Borough Council wants to do, we can define it.
Yeah, I think the door-to-door is,
Swear to God, they let them out.
Usually it's a
Well,
little broad.
soliciting is, I think that's well defined. For peddling, that could be your snow cones.
Table is for, yeah, I think we
Yeah.
get the thoughts together and we need to.
Okay. Carries with him in travel.
That includes a lot of things that we cover.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. We need to approve or consider approving the 2022 minimum municipal obligation to the pension plan. How's this compared to last year? This is calculated the same way as last year.
Absolutely. Yeah. The majority of it is funded by the state.
Right, yeah. Would entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minimum municipal obligation.
I'll second.
any questions? Other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay. Dora Klein final subdivision plan. I think that's him, right? Richard. Yeah. This is that little spot.
I believe the plan's been revised.
We only had big sets submitted, so this is what we have. And if you have the finals.
There's a minor change to the plan. We had to remove Shrewsbury Township's signature block
I
on the
wondered
plan
about that.
because Shrewsbury Township did not want to
Right.
get involved.
Right.
They said it wasn't enough to make a big deal about it. And Josh Meyer said if he goes to record this plan with that block on there, they're gonna.
Don't want to say anything.
And the only other thing is they did go out the other day and place all the corner pins where they belong, and they're on this plan as well.
Is everybody familiar with this
Yeah, from the last meeting.
from the last meeting?
Yeah, it's basically it's in Railroad Borough, a little bit of Shrewsbury Township,
Right.
very small amount of New Freedom Borough.
Right, yeah, we went over this with the planning commission.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and it basically you're just aligning the lots with municipalities and cleaning everything up.
As far as between railroad and Freedom Borough, yes. So, that's really.
We're just going to leave the plans for us to sign? Is that-
You have,
We have to make a motion.
yeah, we still have to.
Right.
Yeah. How many copies do you have there?
Probably more than you need, but I need railroad to sign it also.
Okay, that's.
So I need enough that, you need whatever copies you need, railroad needs their copies, we need a copy for Josh when they record at the courthouse. And I could leave them all, if you would sign them all, that would be just fine.
We can take care of that then.
Okay? And then I can just pick them up.
Yep.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Does everyone remember the situation? We're all good? And then I would entertain a motion to approve a minor subdivision realignment.
So moved.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay.
Relinquish these to your file.
Thank you.
Oh, it's in this corner?
Yeah. we're gonna have more.
I thought it was. I thought it was.
Thank you so very much. Most welcome. Okay, York County Borough Association meeting invite.
Easy. Could I mention that about putting that on the agenda, the next meeting for the sesquicentennial, and be free to discuss that and see what we can do.
Yeah, you want to explain, you can explain a little bit about what you're talking about, so everybody knows.
The sesquicentennial is 150 years of New Freedom, and that's coming up, I'd say, in approximately 2 years. And different people had talked to me about it, and I thought it would be a good idea if we would have some type of celebration for the 150th. So that's why I wanted that to come up on the agenda, so we could discuss it. People have ideas. I mean, if there's anything that we can put together, I mean, we have a good plan that way. And somebody else might have much better ideas even than I have. That's probably do. But yes, I think that would be very important, because it's kind of nice to celebrate the town. I mean, I like living here. I've been here a long time, and I'll tell you, I certainly think we should do something.
The Historical Society is going to work on that too, so.
Oh,
They definitely are, you know of that, well, then maybe we could kind of join
Yeah,
them
we
together.
should work together.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's.
Yeah, a couple of years ago when Glen Rock had their big celebration, I don't know what that was, 150. They had a time capsule that they buried, and everybody in the community was allowed to, submit a thing here and there. I was a Legion officer at the time, the American Legion there, post 403, and we had some documents and some books and stuff, and put it in the time capsule to be opened. I think it was 50 years. I thought that was a neat idea. Maybe that's
really
something.
cool.
Yeah,
Actually, that's a good idea. We should do something.
Yeah.
We can put wine in there.
Yeah, that book from the Women's Club about freedom, that, you remember that?
Yeah.
The Women's Club put a book forth about New Freedom.
Yeah.
I worked on that.
We had
Yeah,
books,
that's
and they actually
And
created
that's
a
very
book,
good.
Glen Rock did,
It's on a group.
where it had all the
Yeah.
organizations in
I
there, and
remember
the
that.
members and pictures, and it had we could have pictures of the carnival in there, what New Freedom was at this
I'm sure
particular
you-
time, right?
You have the centennial book, don't you?
Yes.
I was gonna say, I know I have it.
And then I think it would be great for, the Girl Scouts would love to have that, the Boy Scouts here in town, all these different groups.
We have everything.
It could become a pretty neat thing.
Anyway, but Burnell was just bringing it up because we're going to add that to the next agenda, because we're not supposed to discuss.
It's on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda.
Next time.
Okay. So that'll be added to next month's agenda. Did you want to tell, should we, oh, you told her already? Okay.
No, I said in my report.
Oh, that's true, okay. Okay, and the association meeting invite?
If anybody would like to attend, let me know, and I can get that sent in to David.
Who pays for that?
Do you want to go?
Where is it?
It's,
Oh.
Yeah, I personally.
It sounds like a helicopter.
yeah.
That's the first day, that's.
No, I heard,
have available.
I heard at the beginning, but I.
It's the camera, I believe.
I was wondering
Time,
what
what time is it?
I thought maybe it was a time bomb or something.
You going? I'll go.
Yeah, maybe we'll go together.
Yeah.
It'll be a date.
There you
Okay. The public has faded away. Is there any other public comment, or anyone want to? Okay. We're going to have an executive session. I will promise that the only thing we will do is come back out and adjourn. So there won't be any further discussion, so. You still need it, right?
I don't know that I really do. I think I had originally called for it, I don't think it's
All right,
necessary.
then we don't need an executive session, so I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion.
A second, and
I didn't even see it. I have ways to wait.